Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's the Jade Gemini. This afternoon, I'm super excited to bring you a review of this little guy right here. This is the Wurrkos TS10. Today, I'm actually going to go ahead and tell you what I like, what I love, what I dislike, and if it applies, what is rubbish about this little flashlight. And as I'm sure you'll end up finding out, tell you why this is also my flashlight of the year for 2022. But to tell you all that stuff, let me go ahead and jump into some things that I normally do. Let's first get size comparisons out of the way. So the first thing I'm going to do is compare it to my Leatherman P2. So this is a good size, kind of gets you a broad idea with this multi-tool of how small this light is, but not teeny tiny small. Next thing, if you're not into anything of the EDC with knives or tools or anything, here is it compared to a card that I've covered up with my favorite restaurant of all time here in Tampa, a tea place called Kalijah Tea. But this is like a credit card, right? Size. So this is not big at all. Again, and then probably the best comparison I could make is just, kind of what's inside of this, sort of, which we'll talk about. But this is a standard AA battery. You can also get in mind the diameter, both at the tail as well as at the head of the light. So, with that all out of the way, let's jump right in. So the first thing I like a lot about this light is just overall the way that this looks. I think that this is sort of balances kind of what Olight does, which is sort of take a simple-ist design, but add little flares to it to make it really attractive. And this does this in spades. It doesn't have the sort of like more tool-tastic or boring knurling that you see on some lights, which I like that on some lights, right? But this just does little things differently with these nice little teardrops here, this sort of wasted area here, like a waist, also the waist here that sort of goes in as well. And these little tiny areas right here, which are kind of like indentation points, kind of like what happened on the mini pineapple, where if you hold the light like this, you sort of get these finger indentation points where is sort of the edge of the light before you're in front of those emitters. So I really like that. And that sort of gets me right into the next thing that I like so much about this is just how easy it is to hold in different sort of ways. You can sort of use this as sort of a search light like this. You can hold it like this, just like that with your two fingers, or you can ham it. You can also turn it on, flip it over and use it like this, or you can even use your pinky and actuate the light like that if you wanted to. So there's a lot of different ways that you can turn on this light, which is really nice. I like lights that give you options, not just forced into one thing. Speaking of easy to use, also the other thing is this is easy to carry. Because this light is so small, well, I'll just say that I love the way this carries and put that in the love category. It just disappears in the pocket, which is really, really great. The next thing that I do like a lot about this is the button. I actually had a Lumen Top FW AA, and I was really excited because this has very similar specs to this light right here, but I actually got rid of that light very quickly, never ended up posting a review, and the reason why is that every single time I'd get out of my car, it was on, because it had this big button that went the whole way on the back and was flush with the light. So the seat belt was touching that. This has a firmer button on the back. It's not hard to press at all, but it's harder to go ahead and push accidentally, essentially. And it also has this sort of lip that goes around the outside. So it has this nice little PVD anodized coating that just sort of differentiates it, which is really, really nice. And I do really like that. So it makes it not only a joy to use and be easy to click on, but again, it doesn't accidentally come on, which is great. Because I don't really like to lock out my lights. I want to get in action when I do want to go in and use them. Also, speaking of that end, you can tail stand this light, which is great whenever you can do that. So that is a bonus as well if you do that, eliminate a room and need to go ahead and get some work done. Speaking of that business end, yeah, let me go ahead and move into next what I really, really love about this light. The first thing that I really love about this light that kind of blew me away is the overall fit and finish of it. You know, it just feels really, really nice. The way that everything's blasted. This silver color I really, really love. I don't know if it's raw aluminum or it's actually anodized, but it's just, it has worn very beautifully and it looks gorgeous, but beside, you know, titanium pins and, you know, steel, you know, multi-tools and, you know, Chris Reeve knives and whatever else, right? It just really looks the part. And because of its, you know, lovely design, looks pretty elevated and elegant as well. So I do really, really love that. Everything is pretty tight with the gaps. There isn't any that look like really far apart and then one that looks really close together. Everything's pretty even and well done. The other thing that I do love about this light is, again, just kind of more going back to how easy it is to go ahead and use. You know, it's an enjoyment to use. There isn't anywhere on here that's really, really too sharp or really makes it where it's uncomfortable. You can really get a hold of this in any way, even to a point which is kind of strange, but I like this part right here because sometimes if I have nothing else with me, I'll actually pop the back of the light in my mouth. And I know that's weird, but we all do it. But because of this wasted design, your sort of lips or teeth or whatever sort of keep this balance where it doesn't feel like you're like biting down or it's going to slip. You just sort of put it in there and it, you know, it works. Kind of weird, right? Definitely probably wasn't the intention when they designed this, but hey, I've noticed it. I'm going to call it out, right? The real things that are important is the business end, and there is a lot to do with that. So along with the size of this light, because it uses AA's sized 14500 inside of it, but is also the power. This thing runs 3 beautifully colored lights. Now, they don't tell you what these are. They're 4000K, but they have no blue, and they even have a tint of sort of a, I would almost say a rosy or a yellow. So it reminds me, nearest next no difference of like a Nichia 219 here, right? They don't say that. I couldn't find information about it, but the options are, you know, 5,000 to 5,300K or the 4,000K that are in this, and it's been a lovely light. But the other thing is, again, that performance. You get 1,400 lumens out of this tiny little light, which is definitely something to love. And so that kind of puts it into the next thing is, with this also running the Anduril running system, you get a lot of options that are really fun, a lot of customization with the ramping, as well as fun modes, like your candlelight mode, and your different strobes, and your thunderstorm mode, right? And again, this just all adds to the experience that this light continues to want to get back into your pocket because you're going to want to play with it. Now, there's other lights that are this size that have similar performance, like the FWWA, and also run the Anduril too. But the thing I really like about this is the fact that it can also do this. Oh, sorry, that's battery check. This. It has these red LEDs, secondaries in the head. And so what this does is this basically makes my perfect light that I've been looking for, right? For like an everyday carry. I'm an insanely huge fan of the Hank lights, the Emisars and the Noctigon. I always say that wrong. But anyways, both Hank lights. And they are these big lights that, like the D4V2 and the KR4 and, you know, other ones as well, that basically are kind of, you know, custom made by, you know, Hank, who is a, enthusiast of lights, and kind of build a company around him, and going ahead and making these, and they're really, really great. But again, there's some things that are done with those lights that are a little bit excessive. You have like all these different customization options. You have 7 different colors in the head of these LEDs, and you have 4,000 lumens, and the programming doesn't perfectly match the temperature, so you have to kind of go in and customize things. A lot of those things have been done for you here, and more so simplified. So you get the coolness of the red, which I liked to search through the night as a sort of vision saver option. And also, if you barely can tell, they are red on, so I can grab this off my nightstand if I'm in the middle of the night, kind of like you would with a tritium. But red is the least harsh on your night vision, so it's not keeping you up at night or distracting you in your sleep. So because of that, it's like that one feature was added, and now this has become like the perfect light. Now you can also get this in an amber yellow color, and I believe a blue as well. But I went with the red for the night vision options I just described to you. So that just sort of puts this ethos of this perfect light. It's like a mini Hank light. And I know there's been rumors of one of those to come, but it's not around just yet, and this is here, and it is awesome as is. So to that, I mean, just this is, really one of the reasons why this has become light of the year for me. It's like a mini Hank light. It's got the 14500, which is a battery type that I like, that it's kind of close to a AA. Again, the emitters are like a Nichia, which I love. You have the tail click, which I love. You have Anduril, which I love. I mean, there's just all these different things that are going to coming together just to really make this just about perfection. So what do I dislike about this light? Well, this light is not perfect, and that's what we're going to go ahead and talk about. First thing about this light that I dislike is the pocket clip. Now, it's not terrible, but it is really, really stiff. So to get it into the pocket, you have to pinch and lift. There is no getting this in otherwise. And that's not the biggest deal, but what is the bigger deal is that with this metal steel lip here and being so thin, I have to shimmy this thing back and forth, or it gets stuck just right there and kind of rides high in the pocket. Shimmy it back and forth, twist it, and do all sorts of crazy stuff. And so I might get lucky enough where my pants will finally go like this and come down there. It's just a really rudimentary clip, and because this is so tight in such a small area, you're going to be messing up your brim of your hat if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to use this as a hat light with this reverse area. So it's almost like they should have just removed this. It's just silly to go ahead and have it. The next thing that does kind of come to that is I wish that this did not only have a bigger opening here, but that this was fully deep carry on this clip. Now, I do like the fact that this doesn't rotate. There's a lot of lights that do. This is stiff enough, on the clamp side as well as this finish, that it doesn't slip back and forth like some of my other lights that I've had to try and fix. So that is a real big bonus, at least. But kind of another thing that I dislike a lot is that because this is so pressurized, it also sits right here. So you're going to destroy and make a line around this whole entire finish every time you take the battery out. So unfortunately, you have to be inconvenienced to take something like this paper and essentially do like this. So, the paper hopefully is not going to have enough pressure and friction to damage the finish of the light permanently. And then take the head off. Now, the next thing that I dislike about this light is that this is a AA sized light, but there are other lights that were the contenders of the year that ran Anduril that were somewhat similar to the size, but also ended up having the option to have a AA thrown in them in an emergency, which is something I love, that you can have the spicy, light in there, the 14500. But if you run out, no problem. You can run to the hardware store or pull something out of your remote control, put it in, and get you through a storm, especially with something like Ian that just came through that knocked out people's power for days in certain parts. It would be really useful to have something like that if you couldn't charge your battery back up after it's gone. So I think it's the SC13 Pro by Sofrin, or of course the HSO5, which I love so much, which is a headlight. Unfortunately, that's discontinued, but both of those are about 1,000 lumens. This is equivalent of about 1,500, so it is a little bit of a different caliber of brightness. But again, that Sofrin SC13 Pro is very cheap, and also, again, can get you that light in a pinch. The other thing that I do dislike is, kind of speaking of that Sofrin, it does come with a charger and a battery inside, and this one comes with just the battery, no charger. So you do have to buy yourself a charging system on top of it, not allowing you to use common AA batteries in any sort of way. And it's not that Anduril won't make it work, but that's probably because these are 3 LEDs, and that other light I'm talking about, as well as my HSO5, are single LEDs. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Again, see, it's so tight, it's pulling that paper aside. There we go, confirmation flash. And to that, one thing I did want to mention too that I've just forgot is the quality. Everything's printed and matches here. The battery almost perfectly matches this head here and this. That means they, at some point screwed it almost all the way down and then printed that on there with the light. So just, again, lots of little touches of quality there that I do want to call out some of the good stuff. Other than that, really, that kind of goes ahead and tells everything. There is one last thing that I do dislike, and it almost is rubbish. It's more of a me thing, but again, so with this light, when you go and put it in this red light mode, the way that they've got this soldered here is that you have these 2 lights that are in the middle, and then this one's almost off to the side. So what that does for the beam pattern here is that when you're kind of twisting this light, you can see there's these red parts that are out, and one of them is basically non-existent here, one of them is kind of existent here, and one of them is super bright here. So like when you're in a pitch dark room, you kind of notice that there's these 2 wings and then the one that's not, and it just is like an eyesore that it's not so, homogeneous, I guess you would say is the word, all together, the same, equal. So just something to keep in mind. Now, a good beam pattern that I did forget to mention is this amazing EDC, beam pattern, which is very much, again, like that sort of TIR or like a Hank light, where you have this really big broad that frost into the secondary. Because as a TIR, it's not a defined line, but it sort of frosts its way and morphs its way into this secondary, and it's just gorgeous. So I was using it last night, and wow, there is so much light presence here. How useful is this? This is just wonderful. When I was thinking about things to make for this review. So that's definitely a big thumbs up. And again, another reason why just absolutely love this light. And what that means in a nutshell, kind of wrapping this up, is that Wurrkos killed this. Yes, you have a very rudimentary clip, and I'd rather it be tight than ultra loose, to be honest. And I'd rather this go and be tight where it doesn't move back and forth than it move back and forth and scratch all the way throughout the whole entire light. It's a gorgeous light, and for the price as well, that is so amazing. This is under $30 for this light, and you're getting just this powerhouse with some more premium features like the LEDs and Anduril inside. Yes, it isn't a dual fuel light, which I would like, but you get the benefits of it being a smaller size. And hey, what's your other option? You're going to go with an 18650 or a 1CR 123 or something like that, CR2 123, which is, again, not a proprietary battery as well to get this higher end performance anyways. So if you can kind of go ahead and get past that and just sort of look at it in that way, and you're already an enthusiast, or so you buy a cradle or get a cradle somewhere, and this is going to be your main light, you're going to be more than happy as long as you get to learn that complex Anduril system, and you have some time and patience to get that under your belt. So this is definitely flashlight of the year, because it is just basically a mini Hank light. It's super attractive, reliable, comes in at an attractive price point. So hope you guys did end up liking this review. If you did, please go ahead and give a like, as well as a comment down below. And of course, subscribe if you haven't, because it definitely helps the channel. And there's a lot more flashlight as well as EDC reviews coming down the pipeline. Most importantly, I appreciate you taking time to watch this video when there are so many other great content creators you could have clicked on, and you clicked on my tiny little channel over here. So I really do appreciate that. Of course, I hope everybody has a great rest of your holidays and a prosperous new year coming up. Everybody stay safe and take care. Peace.